Welcome back to Sauce and Hench. Today we're going to be talking about the Bears win over the Vikings and how the Bears have a chance of squeaking into the playoffs and what all has to happen on this episode of Sauce and Hench.
And welcome back to the third episode of Sauce and Hench. I'm Sauce and this is Hench. And
How we doing?
we're doing good. It's Sunday night and the Bears are 7-7. They've won 2 straight games and they're only 1 game out of a wild card spot. Thank goodness for that extended wild card this year.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Us Chicago fans are doing pretty well with this whole COVID because the Bulls got Pat Williams and now the Bears got the extra wild card spot and have a very strong chance of making the playoffs.
Yeah, a very legitimate shot. It's not over. We've still got something to root for every Sunday as of right now, which is all you can ask for at this point in the season. So,
well, today is Sunday, and we're talking about the Bears. And on Wednesday, we're going to meet back up one more time before Christmas to discuss the Bulls as the season starts on Tuesday, the NBA. The Bulls' first game is that Wednesday, am I right?
Yes, sir. Wednesday night against the new-looking Atlanta Hawks. So.
Yeah, so we're pretty excited.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. Very exciting game today. Final score 33-27.
Yes, sir.
What went well for the Bears in this game?
What went well was sticking to our new identity, or the identity that we should have had from the start of the season and the start of the 2019 season as well. Sticking to the scheme of pounding the ball to David Montgomery and running Mitch out on PA rollouts or bootlegs to where he only has to really look at half the defense as compared to looking at the whole field. And the defense made stops when they needed to. And the Bears won the game, which is all you can ask for with the new scheme. So the new scheme, run it to perfection, making the short throws and running the ball well and moving bodies with the offensive line and making stops when you need to. And that's how the Bears were able to pull off a win, get back to 500, and keep themselves in the hunt, as they say on the picture that they show before games and stuff. So,
yeah, the Bears picked up the win after the 12 o'clock game, which is exciting. And now the Cardinals picked up the win over the Eagles, so they still have that final spot by 1 game. They're 8-6, we're 7-7. Good thing is next week we play the Jacksonville Jaguars, who just moved up to first in the draft and could find themselves with Trevor Lawrence. They could be getting sunshine to the Sunshine State.
yeah.
But for me, what really went well for the Bears is I agree. You and I, we cried about this for so long. Why aren't we running the ball? You know, and you go to Pro Football Reference and you look at David Montgomery's stats, and you can totally tell a big change from Bears from beginning of the year till now. And I did some math before we hopped on here. David Montgomery was around 400 yards these last 4 games. He scored 5 touchdowns. Oh, here it is. 71 carries, 434 yards, 5 rushing touchdowns. He's averaging 6.1 yards a carry. That's insane.
Yeah.
And the offensive line's got to feel so much better and have all the confidence in the world to know that we're running the ball successfully. And I think with the very successful run game, now the linebackers have to respect the run game. And this is creating so much more space for Trubisky to roll out. And if there's nothing there, tuck it and run. And if there is something, you just throw it. And, Mooney, Robinson, Graham, who else made? Anthony Miller had a catch, Kmet, even Cordell Patterson. He's getting it to him. And, I started the game off at a friend's house this morning, and it was Mags. And Mags even said, he goes, I don't usually watch football. And he says, I know you had a problem with Trubisky. He goes, what is so different between Trubisky back then till now? He says he looks so much more confident than when I saw him till now. And I said, I'm going to be honest with you. It's because we got a new offense coordinator. The system fits him. I said, he does feel comfortable because he's actually getting a say in the plays.
Yeah.
Because for a while, beginning of the year, Trubisky does not look comfortable. Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't be either if you're getting pounded every game and you're running plays that you don't like to run. You know? Now he's running plays that he may have ran at North Carolina when he was just balling out for him.
Yeah.
And I could totally see a total change of pace in our offense. Like you and I were talking about before the show. for the while there, we just dreaded every time the team scored a touchdown. It was like, well, how are we going to respond? Because we couldn't respond. But now it's more like the Vikings started off the second half with a touchdown, and usually like Bears maybe a month ago, we've been like, oh, well, game's over, we don't have a chance. Now it's, oh, we can respond. Hopefully we can respond, and Trubisky delivered.
Yeah,
I can wear this jersey in peace. I know you guys can't see me, but I'm wearing my Trubisky jersey. I can wear it. This is probably the first time I've wore it since the offseason. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It's kind of those jerseys you hang up and you're like, oh man. I used to have a Cutler jersey. I did the same thing with that.
Yeah.
But you know who I want a jersey of? Cairo Santos, my boy. He don't miss.
Oh man.
What was he? 5 for 5 today?
Yeah. Speaking of jerseys, I told my fiance while we were watching the game, I think my next jersey is David Montgomery. I just love the way that man runs the football.
We got a week till we almost got Christmas. We got Christmas in 5 days. That one may be added to the list. Hopefully Santa can get here quick.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Where he's not getting hit 5 yards behind the line right at the start and you're only getting 10 carries. Now the man's finding just that one hole and letting him get ahead of steam to run into people and do what David does. So,
do you know who David reminds me of when he was running the ball today?
Who's that?
Prime Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't just he hits the hole, but he doesn't like try to hit it fast. He tries to hit it and be patient, trying to weave in and out of traffic. Every time he got the ball, he looked graceful. It's not like would be a good example of this. Trying to think of running backs that are just fast, so they just hit the hole and hope that no one's there to plug it up.
Maybe like Leonard Fournette or something like that.
Maybe like
I feel like even Derrick Henry is just like hit a hole and
right, but he can break tackles. Right,
yeah.
he has the ability to break tackles. He's just a hard man to bring down as it is. But yeah, I can agree with that. Montgomery's more of a I know I'm undersized and I know I'm not the fastest, but I can definitely hit that hole and then weave my way out of traffic because he's shorter than most running backs, so he's lower to the ground, so he has a good way of just stopping on a dime and going to a different direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I saw.
Yeah, man, it's nice to I even feel that like at the few podcasts ago, our first podcast, we were at the point where it's like Daniels and Whitehair are the only ones that we can keep on this O-line and rebuild the rest of them. Now you're thinking, well, Mustipher looks good. Bars even looks pretty
That's his name.
Good. So
Mustipher.
It's like, okay, so let's just say Mustipher's the only one who's proven it. Okay, well now you have 3 and only have to fill 2 other places. And it's like it's night and day. It's night and day, which makes you feel better. You don't have to revamp a whole entire O-line this offseason, which is
I said to my dad, we were sitting watching the game, I said, the beauty about some of these injuries that have been happening is that the center, Mustipher, I said, he just came out of nowhere. I said, he's just been great for us.
Yeah.
I said, I don't think I've ever seen it like someone get past him.
Yeah. So now you have next season, let's say you start right now with 3 building blocks on the O-line of Mustipher at center, and then you slap Daniels and Whitehair both at your guards, and then you go out and go and find a right and left tackle, and that's all you have to really find.
Well, you said the first podcast we did a couple of podcasts ago, you and I were talking about how we're gonna tank, go out and get like the next draft pick, and how like Trubisky won't be back, Nagy won't be back, and I was like, and now we kind of feel dumb a couple of weeks later. But you know what? I wanted them to prove me wrong. Yeah. I wanted them to. I'm happy that they did.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that you change from I still think we draft a quarterback. I still think we draft a lineman in the draft.
Right.
I still think you go out and sign A-Rob like I talked about, and if not, you go out.
How do you not?
Yeah, but the only thing that changes for me from that podcast from now till then is I'm probably signing Mitch to a team-friendly contract. I'm probably starting him for the season, and I'm probably going out and draft. I'm getting rid of Foles and drafting a quarterback just in case Mitch struggles again.
Right.
Well, then you're not wasting a whole season. You have your franchise quarterback right behind you. But I still am getting rid of Nagy. I just am. Whether you go out and get a head coach that's more defensive minded or something. I think Laser should be the play caller to start the season. Because even if, let's say, Mitch struggles or Mitch just doesn't work out, well, Laser still has proven that he does a great job of of getting the best out of what players he has,
Right.
of knowing his players' strengths. So let's say Mitch struggles at the start of next season. Well, at least you have a guy that whoever backup quarterback that you drafted is coming in is
Come on.
is taking over in a system where Laser knows how to get the best out of him.
Right.
So,
Well, you definitely see that now is that Laser is playing to the strengths, and I think that's what every good coach does. I don't feel like Nagy was doing that. Nagy was more
No.
like, this is what I want you to be, not what you are.
yeah,
And that's what,
exactly.
and I think you can totally see a total change of pace in our offense, and it's beautiful
yeah.
to see. And Trubisky is completing more passes. That's what another issue was. Is he'd come out, throw 3 passes, all of them get batted down, and we're like, all right. And then I said out, I even yelled this when Montgomery ran that beast mode touchdown. I think it was the second one of the day. I said, we are running the ball to set up the pass, not passing to set up the run. I said, that's the difference. And I said, now we're making these linebackers think, what's going on? It's way more balanced, not one-dimensional. Like the Texans. They have no run game, but they're just passing. Like, you look at Deshaun Watson's numbers and be like, well, he looked much better than Trubisky. Well, because Trubisky was like, well, if Montgomery's going to rumble for 146 yards and score 2 touchdowns, fine with me. Go ahead. Make my life a little easier. I don't have to get hit every time. You know? He's doing what's best for the team, not best for him. And that's why I really – like, you and I never had a problem with Trubisky personality-wise. He always worked hard. He was a great leader. He's very respected in the locker room. It's just his performance on the field irritated us because we knew how hard he worked every offseason. Like, every time they came in, A-Rob would say, Trubisky looked good. Like, he's got a look in his eye. Trubisky wants to win more than any other guy on that team.
And he wants to win in Chicago more than any
right.
other.
He didn't want to go. He didn't want to leave, and he's said that. Like, he's like, I love Chicago because I want to win here because he knows there's a string of Bears quarterbacks that are just bad. And I don't think he wants to be added to that list, like Baker for Cleveland. Like, your dad probably rambles about how Baker's like the best quarterback they've had since I don't even know, maybe like Tim Couch.
Yeah, but the thing about, like, it makes you really, really open your eyes as a Bears fan, being like, wow, this whole time it was never Trubisky.
It was Nagy.
It was him not being comfortable in an offense. Like, no wonder he looked so on edge all the time, because he's probably thinking in his head, I know this play's not going to work out before I even get the ball snapped.
Well, remember, it wasn't Trubisky that said it, but Nick Foles said it.
Yeah.
He says sometimes I'll be in the huddle and Nagy will call a play, and he goes, yeah, we don't have the time for that.
Yeah.
He basically said, yeah, Nagy calls a play, and I roll my eyes because I know I'm going to get hit again.
Yeah. As to where today it was a tiny play that, like, I mean, as the game in a whole, you probably don't look back at and like, wow, that play won the game. But to me, showed me that Mitch really has confidence in what he's doing. Is there was a play where nothing was really working out, and he rolls out, and any of the past 2 or 3 years he would run the 5 yards, but I see him stuttering and calling Allen Robinson back and throws a dart on the run to him for the first down instead of just like getting scared and running for it.
I legit was going to say that play if you didn't say it.
Yeah, and it's like, wow, he is confident in what he's doing right now.
My favorite play of the game from Trubisky was in the first drive. Trubisky is in the shotgun. He looks. He knows exactly where he wants to go and throws a total dime piece to A-Rob for like 20-yard gain that set up the touchdown.
That was one of the best throws I've seen him make. I mean, he made some good throws within the past few years, like the first game against the Lions and stuff like that, to where he made a dime pass to Anthony Miller. But like, that play reminded me so much of like the couple of the final throws he made against the Eagles in the 2018 playoff game.
Yeah.
Just a seam down the line, or a double hitch move down the line by A-Rob, and Mitch hits him in the perfect spot. I was just like, wow, that looked really good. And he wasn't trying to force it. He knew he had it, and it was right in rhythm. And it's just like, I mean, I don't get how if Matt, I'd be very surprised if Matt Nagy, I mean, like you tweeted on our thing that Nagy has the same year of a contract as Pace, so he'll most likely be around next year. But Bill Lazor better be calling the plays.
Yeah.
Or Matt Nagy better see that's the scheme, and let's build a whole scheme around the plays that Lazor has called this offseason.
Yeah, what I really like about the Bears also is the different formations that they're running these plays out of. It's not like like shotgun, shotgun. It's shotgun under center. It's they're faking play action from underneath the center. They're doing play action in the shotgun. These linebackers and all these other guys are like, wow, the Bears are really balanced. They could hurt us both ways. Like they still have A-Rob. They said A-Rob probably one of the most underrated receivers in the game. Anthony Miller's good. Darnell Mooney's good. Jimmy Graham's gonna
Yeah.
maybe be a Hall of Fame tight end. Komet won angriest runner of the week last week, which he rightfully deserved. Um,
Yeah.
and they're just like, we don't know what to do. And then if they do great coverage, Trubisky has the ability to tuck it and run it for like 5 yards, and they're like, well, that should have been a gain of none, and he just turned it into a 5-yard gain. Now it's 2nd and 5, not 2nd and 10. And it's the little things that are changing this Bears team. It's the fact that we can run the ball with succession and then use play action to freeze everyone. And now you have our playmakers finding creases in the secondary. Trubisky just goes, all right, here you go. And first down, going down the field. The defense, what they're doing, they're sitting in the bench, sipping on some water, getting some oxygen.
Yeah,
And
first time, they're probably like, what the heck's going on? This never happened for us.
And then they come back out, and they're ready to go.
Yeah.
If the Bears can somehow, some way, for a miracle, it's been a rough year for Santa. All I want is the Bears to make the playoffs. If the Bears can somehow make the playoffs, I think they can make a legit run. And I don't want to.
They're on a roll. They're on a roll right now.
This is the hottest they've looked since 2018.
Yeah.
Easy.
It's scary, man. They get on a roll here, and let's say they beat Jacksonville. Arizona loses one of these next few games, and we sneak into the playoffs. We beat Green Bay, feeling hot, man. Defense has their swagger back, and offense is rolling, man. Could be a sneaky team. Like, who knows? Anything can happen in playoff football. So,
yeah, you know what? And I think, like as you said right before we got on here, that this Bears-Packers game is gonna have a much different feel than that first one. Because that first game, we're heading into it. We've lost 4 straight at that point. It was a Sunday night game. Rodgers and the Packers have been red hot all year. They're 11-3 now. I don't know what their record would have been at, 9-3 heading into that one.
Hicks was out.
Trubisky was
the first time.
Right, we were coming off a bye week, and you and I were sitting there like, oh man, like we were texting like, how bad are we going to get beat? How bad is this game going to be?
Yeah.
And like I just felt like the Bears didn't want to even be there. You know, I felt like they just didn't care anymore, and I was like, this is going to be such a rough end of the year, isn't it? Start 5-1, put some confidence in your team, and then watch them lose every game. But the offense looked good, but the defense looked bad. But you know what? It's because we didn't have Hakeem, and you're right. But if we go out and we beat Jacksonville, you ever seen The Longest Yard with Adam Sandler?
Yeah.
There's that part where they say, oh, so what do you suggest for our team? He goes, well, just you usually for college teams, he said you usually bring on like a lower D1, D2 school, and you beat the snot out of them. Bring out their confidence. If the Bears can treat that Jacksonville game the same way, just beat the snot out of them like they did to Houston last week, they're going to go into this next Packer game with so much confidence in themselves. Like, you know what? We've slaughtered the last 3 teams we've played. Well, not slaughtered Minnesota, but we played the best against Minnesota. Yeah, that was probably our best game we've played all year, all around.
Yeah.
We can beat Green Bay.
Yeah.
We can do it.
Yeah.
If we can shut down Devontae Adams, we're good.
Yeah.
Like the defense, if we hold them to underneath 20 points and let Bill Lazor call the plays and let Trubisky do his thing, we're set. We'll go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because right now, the only thing holding us back
is Arizona winning.
Is the Arizona Cardinals.
If Arizona wins both their games, we don't get in. If they can lose one of them and we win out, then we control our fate if they lose one of these games.
And it's a possibility. They don't write off the 49ers because the 49ers, they still have 5 wins, even though they've missed all their star players in the first 2 weeks because they play at MetLife and tore more ACLs than the NBA does in a regular year.
Yeah.
But the 49ers, they lost to Dallas, but Dallas is starting to get rolling. I don't know what's going on with the Cowboys. They start winning football games all of a sudden. I want to take a look at the 49ers, who they've been beating, because they've lost 9 games.
But it's close.
Right. It's not like they're getting blown out.
Yeah. And next week, Bears fans, if you're wondering, we play at noon for some people and 1 o'clock for my time, noon for my Sauce's time, and 1 for Hensch's time. So it'll be the same situation we were in this week. We can settle in, hopefully get a win against the Jags, and then go pray for a 49er win against the Cardinals. So,
Like, for example, the 49ers lost by only 10 points against Buffalo. Buffalo's third best record in the AFC. They only lost by 8 to Washington. Washington's been on a roll, and they only lost by 8 today against Dallas. But that score is kind of deceiving because they scored the Hail Mary at the very end. That didn't mean anything.
yeah.
But other than that, they've beaten the Rams. They put up some good fights. They're not a bad football team.
Yeah. So, and then obviously we have some hope with them facing the Rams last.
Yeah, but the Rams just lost to the Jets today.
Yeah, but
The Rams lost to the Jets. The Rams are like, I have a hard time deciding who's more up and down. Is it the LA Rams or the Las Vegas Raiders?
Yeah, I think it's I don't even know.
It's gonna really
They're both.
depend.
Yeah.
They're both up and down. They're both streaky teams. So it's really gonna come down to what Rams are we gonna get in that Week 17 game.
Yeah, man, but I mean, it just shows you, like, a lot of people are saying, like you said, like, where the hell is this all year? Well, you can't really say, like, well, why wasn't Mustafa starting? Why wasn't Laser calling play calls? You can't really say that. I mean, yeah, you can say it and wish it would happen, but it's like it was literally Nagy just wanting to stay with that scheme and not want to give it up.
Right.
And finally he realized the Bears, week after week after week, all we talked about was the Bears need to realize what their identity is.
Right.
And it's like these past, even the loss against the Lions, they realized what their identity is. You even saw it in the Packers game a little bit. I give them we didn't act like we were murdered anyways, but you could kind of see in the play calls, like, this is what we're going to be calling.
It was working against Detroit. It's just Detroit it's just Pagano decided that he wanted to let Matt Stafford stand in the pocket and pick our defense apart instead of
and we wanted
pressuring.
to keep Mitch in the pocket at the worst possible time. And they did it the Bears did it today when we were up by 3 and it was 3rd and 6. Same situation as the Detroit Lions game. Same exact situation where it was either go for the first down or run the ball, get stopped. And in this case, it was kick a field goal. In the Lions game, it was a punt. In the Lions game, Nagy made the decision. He wanted to go for a first down, put Mitch in the pocket. Mitch fumbles, and we lose the game. In this situation, Nagy, we run the ball to David, obviously don't get the first down, which I'm totally fine with, and then leave it up to your defense to get a stop.
Exactly.
And what happened? We got a stop, and we won the game.
Well, the best thing about that is we ran down the clock, called a timeout, put on Santos. Santos went and got us 3 points, made a 6-point game, and now you're forcing Minnesota to march all the way down the field against your defense, and they have to score a touchdown or the game is over.
Yeah.
And it worked. Perfect. Like, that's exactly what we should have done against Detroit. You and I both agreed. Like, you know what? Stafford may look good on that drive, but the defense has been clutch for us many times this year. Look at the first 2 games against Detroit and against the Giants. Came up clutch twice.
I would have put and came up clutch against one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Oh, Tom Brady. Yeah.
Tom Brady had time on the clock and could have drove right up our throats and won the game, but our defense made a stop.
Wait, he lost. He didn't know what down it was.
Yeah. But yes, we put it on. I was like sitting there to Lydia. My fiance was watching the game, and my dad was down there too, and I was like, okay, if we do not, I don't care if David doesn't get the first down, but I swear to God, if Mitch takes a snap and he's sitting in the pocket, I'm going to just run upstairs and scream my head off. And David took the ball and he got hit after like a half-yard gain, and I was like, I'm totally fine with that. I'm totally fine.
The only thing that I would have only agreed with Trubisky throwing it is if he did a play action, roll out to his right, and he goes, you know what, I'll do one read to A-Rob, and if it's not there, tuck it and run and stay in bounds. That's the only thing I would have been okay with if it was a passing play.
Yeah, if he would have been in the pocket and sitting there just like that Detroit game, I would have been like, he gotta be kidding.
You know
But
what? Do you know who came alive today? Robert Quinn. He's
yeah,
alive. He's risen from the dead.
yeah, he looked good.
He finally got a sack. I think it was his first sack in Iowa, I can't tell you. But he had a
He
good
said it was
amount.
the first game of the season.
He had a good amount of tackles, too. He was actually
Yeah,
blowing up some plays. I was like, you know what? If he can come alive the last second, get red hot.
yeah. And you know who? I mean, he looks good every week, but I
Yeah.
love watching him play is Roquan, man. He looks good every week, but dude, that guy,
He made a clutch tackle today on that screenplay
yeah, he
to
ran from,
Jefferson. He ran
yeah,
a good 15 yards to come get
yeah,
him. And
he's on the other side of the field.
it was only a 5-yard gain. I think we ended up stopping them that drive.
Yeah,
It was a
I
really
love him, dude. He's gonna be on that Mount Rushmore of all the great linebackers the Bears have had.
exactly.
They
Yeah.
guarantee it. Like when you years down the road, when I'm talking to my son about the Bears' great linebacker history of Butkus and Urlacher and all those names and the '85 Bears defense and all
Singletary.
those guys, and yeah, Singletary and all those guys. Roquan's name and Briggs, Roquan. You can just see by the way he plays, he'll be up there too.
It's funny you say that because when I grew up, I used to have this old picture frame, and on the ground would be like a guy that's in like a Packer uniform, but it doesn't say Packers; it's just their colors.
Uh-huh.
And you had Singletary, Butkus, and Urlacher, and I was like,
Uh,
that was like the coolest picture I had. And now you're probably right. If Roquan can stay to his potential, he'd be added on there. Briggs should be on that.
yeah,
And you know what? He may not be the most popular Bear, but he's been really solid for us. Dan Trevathan. I think we
yeah.
finally got to give him some love. You know, I was giving him a hard time, but he's been doing a lot better these last
Yeah,
couple of games.
he's always been able to lay the brick on somebody. He's just getting a little bit. He's not as fast as he was back in his heyday, like Roquan
Right.
in Denver days and stuff.
He's great against the run, but against the pass,
Yeah.
I don't want him covering anyone.
No,
Let that be Roquan's job.
oh yeah, but he can still lay the boomstick on people if they
Yeah.
come in there, man.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So another thing that we wanted to talk about outside of the Vikings win the game against the Vikings today was the possibility of us getting to the playoffs. And no, we only got two
Yeah.
games left. The Vikings play on Christmas, so I'm also going to ask for a Saints win over the Vikings on Christmas.
yeah,
Because that would basically almost eliminate them if the Bears can go out and beat the 1-win Jaguars on Sunday.
yeah. So I mean, they're wishing on a lot more than us at this point.
They have to have a lot happen,
a
as you
lot.
said it. Yeah.
Yeah, the tweet was, or the thing from Bleacher Report was, they need the Cardinals to lose 2 games. They need to win both of their games, and they need
Right.
the Bears to lose 1 game.
Right, and the Vikings got the Saints, and then they finished up the year against the Lions.
Yeah, so they don't have an easy schedule by any means. The Bears, like, losing one of their 2 is the most likely situation out of any of the situations,
Yeah,
I think, for them to get in. But the Cardinals would still have to lose 2, and they have to win both. So, I mean, it's a long shot for them. As to we're just hoping for one Arizona loss.
yeah. And I even said this to you before we started. I said that Lions loss is starting to poke his head out a little bit more after these.
Definitely.
Yeah, because I think the Cardinals end up losing that week because these last 2 weeks is only this times they've won because they had that game winner against Buffalo with Hopkins. After that, they were awful.
We're 8-6 right now. We're 7-7.
Yeah, we're 7-7. The Cardinals are 8-6.
If we would have won that game.
Yeah. We'd be tied with them right now.
Yeah.
And I think the tiebreaker would go to us then because we haven't played them. But you and I looked; it's against conference, and I think the Bears would have one more game on them. Because now I think I said we're sitting at 6-5 in conference. We'd be 7-4 in conference instead, and the Cardinals would still be at 6-4. So we still have that one win over them.
Yeah.
But the good thing that's working out for us now is that we have to play Jacksonville, and and if we don't beat Jacksonville, then might as well just not even show up for Green Bay.
Exactly.
The good part is for us is that the Cardinals' last 2 games are divisional games, and we both know that it's hard to beat a team twice in a year.
Yeah.
and the Cardinals, they'll put up a fight against San Francisco. I think that one, if I had to look at the schedule now, I'd go Arizona beats San Francisco, and then we head into week 17, Bears and Rams. And the Rams, I don't even know what's their issue. One week they look like Super Bowl contenders, and the next week they look like they're the New York Jets. And
Yeah.
that's where they lost today to.
I would feel, I mean, anybody would feel, but it would be really, really nice next week if um if we went out and we beat the Jags and Arizona loses to San Fran.
Right.
Then you're sitting like, okay, here we go. Like then both teams going into that final week have a tough game.
Yeah.
So you feel fine because then you're at the point. So the Bears would be 8-7 and the Cardinals would be 8-7, and then you're going into where it's like, okay, even if the Bears lose that game against the Packers, you still hold the tiebreaker against Arizona if they lose to the Rams. So you still have that shot.
Right.
So
right.
like if next week we could win and Arizona could lose, then you're going into that last week a lot more comfortable than if Arizona wins and we win. Then it's like we have to beat Green Bay.
Right. And
they have to lose to the Rams.
And I have confidence in the Niners and the Rams because they have really good head coaches that have played the Cardinals constantly. You have
Does it matter for the Rams at all if they what's the consequences for the Rams in that final game if they play Arizona?
If the Rams lost the control in the NFC West because they lost and the Seahawks won. But if the Rams can win out their next two games and the Seahawks can lose, I believe the tiebreaker goes to the Rams because I think they beat Seattle. I'm not entirely sure because I haven't really looked at the NFC West in a whole. I've been really more studying the Bears and the Cardinals for today's show.
The Seahawks are 10-4 and the Rams are 9-5. Right. So they're still aiming for that division still.
Right. But I think the Seahawks clinch today because no matter what happens for the rest of the year, they're in. Because I think they hold the tiebreaker over Arizona.
Yeah, but do the Rams still have a shot at winning the division?
Yeah.
Because that game still does matter for them.
Yeah, because they hold the tiebreaker over the Seahawks because they both have the same record heading into today, and the Rams held it because they beat Seattle.
Okay.
Do they play each other again? I didn't even look. The Rams and the Seahawks. I didn't even look. I know the Rams.
Yeah, they do. They play next the 27th.
So now we have to pray that the Rams win that game, and then head into Week 17 playing the Cardinals for the division. So they'd really come out wanting to win that game more than anything, and they may get a little more motivation to play better, so they can get to the playoffs as a division champion and get to play at home instead of possibly going to play Seattle for a third time, or I think they'd get the first wild card. So they'd play the NFC least team.
They'd play Washington. Right now, the playoff picture is – let me go back to it.
It's either Washington or New York because I know Washington lost and New York's playing right now against the Browns.
Yeah. So as of right now, it would be Saints and Green Bay for by Saints and Cardinals, Seahawks and Bucks, and Washington and Rams.
Yeah.
So if they moved in that 4 spot, or they would move into the 3 spot.
Yeah, because whoever wins the NFC East is going to get last in the 4 division champions.
Yeah. Yeah, so hopefully they beat the Seahawks, so that way that last game is like division champs.
Yeah. Yeah, because if they lose to Seattle, and Seattle would clinch the division, and at that case, the Rams would be playing then for if they get to play the Redskins, not the Redskins, the football team or Giants, or they'd be playing the 3rd seed, which you said is the division champions would be Seattle then at that point.
It's Seattle right now, yeah.
Yeah, because if Seattle wins, they'd go up 2 games on the Rams, so they'd clinch automatically. They'd be division champions because they'd go up to 11-4, and the Rams would fall to 9-6. But if they lose, then Tampa Bay could win their game and tie with them for the number 1 wild card spot for out of the 3.
Yeah.
And I know I don't want the Rams to keep falling because we lost to the Rams, so we wouldn't get that tiebreaker. They'd beat us in everything. So we're
Yeah.
still holding out for Arizona.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was hoping that Tampa Bay would lose today because they were in a close one with Atlanta, and they'd lose a game, and we'd only be one game behind them then.
Yeah.
And then if they lost another game in their next two games, we would get the tiebreaker over them and maybe even get to that second wild card spot. And
Yeah.
then we'd play the NFC West division champions, which would either be the Rams or the Seahawks. But I'd have total confidence in playing Seattle.
Yeah.
The only team I wouldn't want to play in the playoffs right now would be Green Bay.
Yeah.
I'd have confidence in the three division champions. I think we could beat the Rams again because we held them to only 24 points, and Jared Goff has such a terrible time against our defense.
Yeah.
And the only reason why they beat us is because Nick Foles had like his worst game of all the games he started this year because we only scored 10 points.
And if we got in that last spot right now, we'd play the Saints the first round, which
I have the Saints somehow never perform in the playoffs.
yeah.
And Drew Brees finally came back, and he's a little rusty. So we'd see about that. And Michael Thomas is not playing. I think Michael Thomas said he's done.
Gotcha.
Because I think I read somewhere that Des Bryant's going to have more touchdown receptions than Michael Thomas this year. And Des Bryant has one, and Thomas has none. Because he's been in and out of the lineup because he's been hurt all year.
Yeah.
And if Drew Brees, I don't want to say it, but the 2 games left, they're putting everything on the table. The guy fractured 11 ribs, and there's 24 in a human body. There's no way he's 100%. There's just no way.
No.
So if the Bears were to play him, I wouldn't see there's a very good chance it couldn't even be Drew Brees.
Yeah.
It could be Taysom Hill, and in that case, I'm like, you know what? Bring on Taysom Hill. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
If the Bears play Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers twice a year, they'll have no issue with Taysom Hill.
No shot. No way.
I don't think people realize how tough the NFC North is every year.
Yeah.
Because we have 3 really good quarterbacks, and Stafford, who's underrated because the Lions franchise is a joke. Kirk Cousins is finally come alive after a slow start in his Minnesota career, and Aaron Rodgers, who is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and everyone knows that. Like it's not even fair.
Yeah. I'm pulling up an article right now. It says what needs to happen for the Bears to make the playoffs. So I'm going to go through all the things right here after I get through it. So what needs to happen for the Bears to make the playoffs? There's 2 scenarios. One, Bears went out. So the Bears beat the Jags. In this scenario, Bears finished 9-7. Cardinals are currently 8-6 and host the Niners and play the Rams.
Well, the good part is about that Niners game is the Niners have been playing their home games at Arizona, so it's not like it's going to be a huge deal that they're on the road because that's where they've been at. Because the city of San Francisco kicked them out for the time being.
So if the Cardinals win out, the Bears are eliminated, it says.
Right, because they still have that one game against us.
Yeah. If the Cardinals lose only one of their final 2 games, they end the season 9-7. The tiebreaker would be the record in conference games, like we talked about. The Bears are currently 6-5 in the conference, and if they win out, they'd be 7-5 in the NFC. Cardinals are currently 6-4 in the NFC, and if they went 1-1 in their final 2 games, would also be 7-5.
Right,
The tiebreaker then moves to best one-lost tied percentage in common games, minimum of 4. The Bears and Cardinals have 4 common opponents: Rams, Giants, Panthers, and Lions. Right now, the Bears are 3-2 in those games, while the Cardinals are 1-3.
Oh, okay.
Even if they beat the Rams in their Week 17 game, the best they could finish is 2-3, and the Bears would own the tiebreaker. That's for the 7th seed.
Okay, so yeah. So in other words, yeah, okay. Okay, now I'm okay. Okay.
Now, a scenario of if the Bears go 1-1, so if the Bears lose one of their final 2 games, they'd be 8-8 and need a lot more to happen to reach the playoffs. For starters, they're not making up ground to catch anything but the final 7th seed, which means they need to overtake the Cardinals. The Bears would need the Cardinals to lose their final 2 games to also finish 8-8, and then it would force the tiebreakers. The tiebreaker again would be the record in conference games, and if the Cardinals lost their Week 17 and 17 matchups, the Cards will be 6-6. And if the Bears beat the Packers in Week 17 and lose to the Jags, they're in with a 7-5 NFC record. If they beat the Jags and lose to the Packers, they're also 6-6 in the NFC, which means the tiebreaker would move to the percentage again. In the minimum of 4, as mentioned before, the Bears are 3-2 in common opponents, and they're 1-3. So if more teams than just the Cardinals and Bears and the season 8-8, the tiebreakers get more confusing, but that's all a bunch of other crap. So,
Yeah, to give you an idea on how bad the Jags defense has been, they gave up 40 this week, 31 last week, and they only lost by 3 against Minnesota and only by 2 against Cleveland.
what was their Green Bay score game? Because I know they played them down to the wire
24-20.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that Minshew starting next week.
Right. The only player I have an issue with on that team is not Minshew, but it's James Robinson.
He's good.
He's very good. But you know what? We've had to deal with Dalvin Cook twice. We had to deal with Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, and Derrick Henry, the Bears have played the 2 best running backs in the league.
Yeah.
Easy. And one of them twice.
And we're fighting for a playoff spot.
Right.
And they're fighting for
a first overall pick. Yeah.
So
because I watched the Ohio State game, and Justin Fields from Ohio State has not really impressed me like Trevor Lawrence does. So if I'm the Jags, I'm like, you know what? Maybe we should just keep starting Gardner Minshew and losing these games, let the fans have some fun with Minshew before he's done being a Jaguar, and we can play. We can get Trevor Lawrence to come here to Jacksonville, and then the Jets are like, oh man, we beat the Rams. That's not good.
Yeah, absolutely. But man, it's fun thinking about the playoffs, man. And seriously, I mean, yeah, we said that like in the first podcast we said that we wouldn't bring Mitch back, but we were also under thinking that
there's no way you would sit there and think that Bill Lazor's offense would work this good. There's no way that no one saw this coming.
You would sit there and think that like Nagy was really going to buy all into this scheme that we're in right now.
Right.
If you told me we're buying all into running the offense through what our players best fit, then I would have been like, they're going to look different, but maybe not this different.
Yeah.
We've never seen the Bears, even in 2018, we didn't see the Bears putting up these numbers. I never thought that would work this as well as it has been.
Here's the difference I see between the 2018 team and the Bears from Houston in the last 2 games. I'll even count the Lions game. We'll count Detroit.
Yeah.
The Bears in 2018, they had a good offense, but it wasn't great. It was more like, okay, they're doing just the bare minimum to win these games because our defense is doing a good job. But there's a couple of games where there's exploded, like Tampa Bay and Buffalo are the 2 games that are prime examples of us exploding on offense because Mitch had, 6 passing touchdowns that game. Yeah. And then against Buffalo, I think we scored like 40 points and our defense locked them down and our offense kept doing their job. But I'd say that this one feels more Mitchell Trubisky controlled, and we're a lot more explosive plays. And I don't feel like we're doing the bare minimum on offense. We're going out there and we're scoring. Like what did he say today? For 6 straight drives,
we scored.
And like that's nice. That's the one because that was the only drive that they didn't count was when we ran the ball one time and headed into the halftime. And I said, you know what? We're up 20-10. Perfect. That's fine with me. That's okay.
I'm used to seeing them flashing up our possession for the game and it being punt, field goal, punt, field goal, punt.
Fumble, interception.
Yeah.
Anything but touchdown or field goal.
Yeah. And the other thing that's different in my opinion too is like I was a big Jordan Howard fan. I just liked him. I don't know. Maybe it was because he was on some Bears teams that struggled and he was one of the only things that I could cheer for. But I loved him, so I'm not bashing him at all. But I think David Montgomery is a way more versatile running back than Jordan was. Jordan's more of like what we talked about earlier, hit a hole that is there for him, and that's it. As to where David's like hit a hole and break through 3 or 4 tackles and like see, and he can catch out of the
Backfield.
And he can catch out of the backfield. Jordan Howard couldn't do that. I love Tariq as well, but Tariq's kind of a specialty back. As
Right.
for David, you could use on all 4 downs for
Right.
real. So all 3 downs, sorry.
My,
But
my my favorite run today by Montgomery wasn't the touchdown run, but it was when the guy grabbed him by the shoulder pad and he came down and then he shook
yeah,
it off and got back up and kept going. I was like,
yeah,
wow. And I'm
yeah,
glad you brought Jordan Howard because I didn't have a problem with him because you're right. He was on some really bad teams and was only the star. Like, you know how you said that for your White Sox teams, you look at how the guy did, but not the team. That was Jordan
yeah.
Howard for those rebuilding
Yeah,
years.
he was young and he was putting up
Right.
record. Like he was putting up like pretty good like rookie. I remember him breaking some records for us.
He
I feel like.
Yeah, he finished second in rushing in rookies,
Yeah,
only to Zeke, but because Zeke was on a much better Cowboy team. They won 12 games that year and went to the playoffs and lost.
yeah,
But for the end of Howard's run with the Bears, he'd hit the hole, and like you said, he hit the hole. One guy touched him, and he'd fall over, and he'd be done. And my
yeah.
dad even said, he goes, Matt Forte was kind of like that at the end of his career too with the Bears before he went to the Jets.
Hmm.
And when the Bears traded Howard, I was like, you know what? It makes sense to make this move. And now that we drafted Montgomery, I was like, yeah, now it makes a lot of sense. And you know what? That's Ryan Pace. And people can bash and Pace all he wants for drafting Trubisky over Mahomes and Watson. It was like his first or second draft. Like relax, man. A
Yeah,
lot of
but
pressure
now,
on him.
even now you're seeing like Mahomes is just out of the ordinary. Like people point out us because we traded up for Trubisky, but a bunch of other teams passed on Mahomes too. Like it
Yeah,
wasn't like Mahomes was the clear cut number 1 overall pick, and we were like, we're not drafting him. He dropped a lot, and he wasn't he wasn't the prospect that he turned into being.
right.
And now you can't even really be like. I mean, I know Bears fans are always split on it, but I'll get a lot of crap for it, but I still am happy you're okay. I'm not gonna say it was the greatest pick ever because I
No,
wanted Watson in that draft. I still like Watson a
I
lot,
wanted Watson.
but you see why Pace drafted Trubisky in the past few games.
Right.
Because when the system is run through what his strengths are, using his legs, getting outside the pocket, throwing on the run, making it easy for his mind to read stuff. He's not Aaron Rodgers to where he can sit there in the pocket and read a whole field and pick apart a defense. It's splitting the field in half to where he is on the run and only has to view half the field and make a decision. And it's working. He's putting up over 30 points a game.
Yeah.
That's you see, and he's the past. If you're just judging from Detroit to now, he's an average, maybe a little bit above quarterback, which is what all the Bears need with a running back like David and a defense like we have.
Right. Well, here's something we need to look at. Let's look at the games that Laser after he took over after that bye week. 25 points, 30, 36, and 33. And before that, let's look. Okay, so he's 4 games. Our last 4 games before he took over: 10, 23, 17, and 13.
What was the 23 one?
That was against the Saints.
Yeah,
we only lost by a field goal.
Yeah, even that game was a struggle to get anything going.
Well, even against the Titans, we didn't come alive till the very end. And then
the Titans touchdowns were just BS time.
So, well, then you had we've talked so good about Montgomery, but that's like the only mistake I can think of is when he fumbled it and they took it all the way and scored. And then Minnesota, we only scored 13, and we should have easily won that game.
Yeah.
You and I talked about it. They bottled up Dalvin Cook. The only reason why he got 96 yards that game is because he ran the ball 30 times.
Yeah.
But other than that, dude, the offense has been our highlight.
If anybody but Laser's play calling at the beginning of next year, we're in for a train wreck.
Again.
Yeah, I swear to God, if anybody but Laser's play calling, then we're in for a train wreck again. But, I mean, only thing I would change in my offseason plan right now after these games, even if we did lose these final 2 games, is sign Mitch to a team-friendly contract, keep Laser, fire Nagy. I'd still draft a quarterback. I'd still draft some O-linemen.
Right.
And I'd go into next season running the same scheme we're running right now.
Right. The only thing I would suggest is maybe getting a backup running back besides Tariq. That's the only thing I
Yeah,
would say, because I know, like, with running backs, you have to be careful how much you use them mileage wise.
yeah,
Because, like, a perfect example for me would be Todd Gurley. Like, he was one of the best players in the league. Like, not like, was it like 2-3 years ago they went to the Super Bowl, and now he's in
yeah,
a different team. And he still has highlights of being Todd Gurley, but it's because not only was he running the ball a lot, he was also catching it and running with it. So
yeah,
the Rams used him. They put so much mileage on him right away. He looked like a starting pitcher that gets called up and
yeah,
throws 200 innings his first year. You know?
yeah. It'd be nice to have a better backup running back than Ryan Nall. Let's just say that.
Well, Cordeo's been running it, and Cordeo's been running the ball well. But I would still like a legit running back that would be
Yeah.
okay with getting a couple carries here, a couple carries there, and
Which now,
understanding.
if you really hit on Mustafa, then you can afford to go and draft um, a running back
Right.
with one of those picks instead of drafting 6 linemen because you're like, all we have is Whitehair and Daniels. As to where now you're just looking for some tackles to fill around line of Mustafa, Whitehair, and Daniels. So
And Daniels is our left tackle, correct?
I'm pretty sure Daniels is a guard.
Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't sound dumb when I said this. I think if we're gonna draft anyone, it needs to be a left tackle.
Oh yeah,
And if it's possible, we could trade up. And Bama has this really good tackle that's coming out. I'm not sure what his name is because I didn't really look at him too closely, because I thought for sure Trubisky wasn't going to perform these last couple of games, and it looked like Kyle Trask was going to be in a Bears uniform next year.
I
But
still think he should be.
yeah, but
I still think he should be. I still think we should draft a quarterback because what if the same situation, let's say Mitch, something just doesn't work out with Mitch, and then you're in a situation of like, well, then you're going back to Foles again and you're in the same train wreck, as to where if you draft that round one quarterback, then you're still like, this is our franchise guy, as to not having to wait a whole year.
how much would it cost us to franchise tag Trubisky for a year? Be like, you know what, Mitch, if you go out and you perform like you did these last couple of games of the year, we'll give you a contract that you'll like, but you have to prove to us. Like, you proved yourself these last couple of games, but we're not totally sold on you yet.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try and see what happens if you get to play a full year of laser.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can save money and be like, all right, well, here, Allen Robinson, we got some money, we saved it for you. Come on back and see if we can win this thing this year.
A-Rob likes Mitch too.
Oh, the dude, like, do you see like if you watch him on the sidelines, he is so happy for Mitch to finally be performing to the potential that Robinson, you're in and you're out. Always says, he goes, Mitch has a look in his eye. He's looking like a really good quarterback. He busted his butt this offseason.
Yeah.
And he's so happy for him. And Robinson reaping the benefits.
Yeah.
He's got some great games. He's over 1,000 yards again.
Yeah. It's definitely, it's a good feeling in the pit of the stomach instead of a bad one. Let's just say that.
Well, I remember last year it was the Bears-Eagles game. Yeah, I don't remember much of the game because I think I watched maybe the first quarter and I was done already because it was a disaster.
Yeah.
You know, you and I had so much hopes going into that year because we just came off arguably the best season since maybe the Super Bowl season when we went out and lost to the Colts.
Yeah.
We went 12-4, won the division. We should have beat Philadelphia. And, we were like, you know what? We looked really good. The defense stayed together. We didn't lose anyone except for Amos, which is fine. That's one player out of 11. And we still have a good – and then our offense, like Trubisky took some strides between his rookie year and last year. And then it looks like we went like all the way back to square one. I was like, what happened? And now someone said this to me. They asked, is Trubisky the problem? And the guy said, I don't think Trubisky was the problem. He said, I think he was a piece of the puzzle of the problem of the Bears offense. And he goes, and now Lazer's putting it all together. And
well, yeah, because it was just like so many different. It was like, so you have, if you're alluding to a puzzle, you have the puzzle, and it's like you had all the pieces, but you were trying to jam them into the wrong spots.
Right.
You had Mitch, you had Nagy, you had Laser, and you had Montgomery, and you had the Bears defense. And you're trying to shove Mitch in the piece of where in Nagy's offense, and you're not even using the scheme that Laser has came up with by fitting to the player's strengths, and you're not using Montgomery running the ball, and you're not getting the ball to your playmakers, and you're making your defense stay on the field over and over, as to where now you took all those puzzle pieces back out and you started from square one, and you're like, Mitch, you fit perfectly in this piece with Laser's offense, and now I'm starting to see all these other puzzle pieces fitting perfectly once that one's into place, because now my defense is sitting on the bench and getting a rest. Oh, you fit perfectly here because now you have rest and water. Oh, in Montgomery, you fit perfectly because you're getting more than two yards a gain. You're getting 5 to 6, which, that makes Mitch and the play action work better. And now you're seeing, the puzzle piece of my playmakers and Darnell Mooney and Allen Robinson and Komet, you're all seeing them get the ball now, and everything is just flushly fitting into the puzzle, as to where beforehand you're getting angry as hell filling it out because nothing's fitting together, and everybody's pointing fingers and saying it's his fault, and everybody's mad and everything, as to where now you see all fit together like it should. So,
well, here's a perfect example. I know you'll like this one because of who your dad is. Your dad, Browns fan. Well, look. This is where I'm heading with this. They have Baker Mayfield, first overall pick. They have Nick Chubb. They have Kareem Hunt, Jarvis Landry. They went and got Hooper and Odell. Mm-hmm. But last year they were garbage again. It's like, what happened? And Fred Kitchens was like the same thing with Nagy. He's their Matt Nagy. He was more like, okay, this is how we're going to run the offense. And their offense was awful.
Terrible.
Some of the best players you can imagine. But now this year they bring in Kevin Stefanski from Minnesota, who's offensive coordinator for a long time. Now they're 9-4, going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And Baker's been having his best games.
Yeah, because why? Because Kitchens, just like Nagy, wanted to be a pass-first offense instead of a run-first offense. When you have dogs, the Bears, like Montgomery, and the Browns have dogs like Chubb and Hunt, a two-headed monster dog, you should be a run-first offense, which then leads to Baker. It's the same. Like, they may be different quarterbacks, but Mitch and Baker, in a lot of ways, are the same damn quarterback, to where they're better on the run. If they're in the pocket, it's not good. It's a run-first offense, which leads to play action, which then you see the Browns, Jarvis Landry getting open, and the Bears, Allen Robinson getting open. It's eerily familiar between the two teams of how much can change. And the Bears would have been in the same situation record-wise and division-wise. We wouldn't be talking about having to worry about the Cardinals if Laser would have been calling these plays from the beginning.
There were so many one-possession, two-possession games that we could have won because we were in those opportunities, but we'd get there and their offense would just shut down. And you're just like, oh, here we go again. But now it's like, okay, we're going to hand it off to Montgomery. Montgomery's going to get 5-6 yards. We're going to keep pounding it down their throat. And now, you know what the Bears did really good today that people won't think of because he wasn't a factor? Harrison Smith did not do anything for the Vikings today. Usually, like Harrison Smith, I dread playing him because he's the best safety in football. He was a non-factor. But you know why? Because he was very confused on where he was, like what to do. Like, okay, we're going to run it. And now he's getting pulled up because play action. And now you're leaving A-Rob one-on-one on this island with the DB, and no one's going to stop Allen Robinson one-on-one. Same thing with Jarvis Landry or Odell Beckham Jr.
It's eerily familiar.
Exactly.
It's almost the same familiarity-wise, besides the one thing I say to my dad, like, besides Myles Garrett, you really don't. Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, our defense is a lot better. So, which makes us – I think even scarier if we would have had the calling from the beginning.
I'll give you a prime example of what the Bears look like to me. Those old Texans teams that had Matt Schaub and Arian Foster and Andre Johnson and their really good defense with J.J. Watt. I believe they had Brian Cushing. I think that was their linebacker. And they had a great defense. Mm-hmm. And they run the ball with Arian Foster. I think Arian Foster had 1 year he ran for like 1,500 yards.
Yeah.
But then they use play action, and they get Andre Johnson set up. And now Matt Schaub standing there throwing just accurate passes and getting first downs. It worked for them. They won how many divisions in a row? They were consistently good. But then injuries started happening. That's why they kind of derailed. But
Matt Schaub didn't need to be the MVP. Mitch doesn't need to be the MVP.
Exactly the exact proof of today's game. Trubisky understands that he doesn't have to be the hero, that he can rely on his teammates to make the plays because Laser puts them in situations to make the right play. Not like Nagy. It was like I said, this is the prime example of why Matt Nagy should never call a play again for the offense. So, Coach, why did Trubisky drop back and then throw that ball into double coverage? Oh, we wanted to take a shot. So did you tell Trubisky just to throw it deep and hope that someone catches it?
Yeah.
It's not Calvin Johnson or Larry Fitzgerald out there. It was Anthony Miller, I think, was intended for, or A-Rod was one of those two.
Who's the smallest player on the field?
Darnell Mooney threw into double coverage, interception, and now the Packers went down the field. They're already 17-0 before we could blink an eye. And I was like, why would you ever tell him that? Go through your progressions. If nothing's there, if there's two guys on Darnell Mooney, someone's got to be open.
Yeah.
Someone else has to be open. Jimmy Graham poking at anyone but that throw.
Yeah, even like it's just like you just said, Nagy should never call another play because it's like he wanted the Bears system to be a system that was full of trickery and the quarterback was the MVP. As to where Laser system is every player should be the MVP on the team, and I'm gonna call plays that fit my players. Like it's just night and like the Bears in all reality should never take a shot, in my opinion, in every game this season, unless it's literally legit like Hail Mary time or like legit like, oh my God, no one is even close to him. He's wide open and I can hit him. Otherwise, the Bears are not the offense, and they finally figured out that is like we don't need to rely on big play. We don't need to rely on huge bombs. We don't need to. And that's what Nagy wanted.
I said to you, a perfect example of the Bears and what offense they should be running is the old-fashioned West Coast offense that the 49ers lived on during their dynasty in the 80s. Dump it off, get first downs, go down the field slowly, methodically, let your defense relax, get back together and go, okay, what's going on that we can stop them? What are we seeing? And then they score a touchdown or a field goal. That's fine. There's a bit like, okay, I understand a touchdown is 4 more points than a field goal, but you know what? Points are points. And if you get if you keep their offense off the field for 5 minutes, you're doing your job. I said to my mom and my dad, I said, the best way to keep Aaron Rodgers from scoring on you is make sure he stays on the sidelines because it's pretty useless if he doesn't have the ball.
Yeah, if we can put together an 8-minute drive, like we put together an 8-minute drive or like a 7-minute drive today and ended a field goal. I'm pretty sure it made it 10-0.
Yeah.
And I texted you, good drive. Like
exactly.
Even though it wasn't a touchdown and we didn't punch it in the end zone, like I was like,
points are points.
You just gave her, and it wasn't like in some case scenarios the Bears would drive down the field and kick a field goal, and you're like, we weren't saying points are points, but it's been different the past few times because we're scoring It's not like it's like 9-0. We kicked 3 straight field goals and missed in the red zone 3 straight times. If you punch it in the red zone 3 out of 6 times, I don't care. And you kick 3 field goals out of the other times, like I don't care. But in past years, it was like red zone field goal, red zone field goal, red zone field goal. And I swear now, if you get a touchdown, field goal, touchdown, you're like, wow, we're up 17-0 compared to 9-0 or 6-0.
Well, and the thing that I always have to explain to people is that it doesn't matter how good you are coming out of college. It depends on what type of system or what type of situation you're heading into.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, Trubisky was heading into a rebuilding team with a first-year head coach. You know, Nagy's like, we have no idea what Nagy's going to be. Is he going to be a great coach or is he going to be a total bust? And for me, it's been bust. But then you look at Pat Mahomes and the situation he got in with one of the best offensive minds in NFL history in Andy Reid. Andy Reid took a team to a Super Bowl. You know, he rebuilt Mike Vick to what Mike Vick was after being out of football for like 2 years. He made Donovan McNabb a great quarterback, even though he was a second overall pick coming out of Syracuse. He was still a really good quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, Andy Reid is going to be a Hall of Fame coach. Nagy, not so much.
No.
Then Pat Mahomes also has like Travis Kelce, who's the best tight end in the game right now. He has Tyreek Hill, who I'd put money on him to beat anyone in a race at this point, even Olympians, because he's so quick.
Yeah.
Trubisky came into a situation where he's like, okay, I've got Jordan Howard, A-Rob. I got some good players, but the Chiefs know what they were doing because they can't take the deep ball because of Tyreek Hill. The Bears are more like, okay, we don't have that deep ball guy, but we're going to try. How about we just get Robinson some soft spots to catch it because he's been a sure-hand guy and get first downs?
Yeah, how about you look at Mitch's tapes from college and realize, oh, we drafted him because of his legs and he can throw on the run.
And his accuracy.
Instead, we're going to look at his college tapes and be like, he throws well and accurate on the run, but we're going to sit you in the pocket and hope you can make a deep bomb with double men in coverage on your wide receiver. It makes no sense.
There's a guy that did that. They did this to him. They forced him to do this because they thought he could believe in him. I think he's one of the most overrated coaches of all time. Jim Harbaugh. First year with Colin Kaepernick, they went to the Super Bowl because they were running read options. They were letting him run and throw the ball and getting guys open. Then he goes, oh, it worked. Well, let's just have you stand in the pocket and throw. Colin Kaepernick was never the same. He's out of the league. Okay, well, he might be out of the league for different reasons, but he lost his starting position to I can't even think of his name. It was the bust from Jacksonville. What's his name? Oh, he came out of Missouri. He's been a backup for like 8 teams now. Yeah, I'll have to look, but he lost his job. But now you're forcing Trubisky in the same situation, like Lamar Jackson. He was struggling there for a bit because they were trying to make him a pocket quarterback. He's not that. He is a running quarterback, and it's been working for him these last 2 games. We saw last Monday against Cleveland, and the best game of the year played so far.
And the Foles move today, after hearing Olin Kreutz on the Bears postgame show, it's kind of hard to explain but my brain clicked on it right away. Is the Foles move makes me more mad and should make anyone more mad than anything right now, because in the time, all of us were, and I'm mad at myself for thinking it, like everybody, but all the news you saw was it's Trubisky's fault. But it makes me even more mad now that we put Foles in for Trubisky, because it was never, now that you sit back and really get the grip of the situation, it was never Foles was better than Trubisky. That's why we put him in. It was because Nagy wanted to try anything before he let the team die.
Exactly.
Which makes me so mad, because it's like, that should have never he wanted his scheme to die before he would bench players, and he would bench guys like Mitch, who have given everything to the franchise, before he let his scheme die. Which is dude, that makes me so mad.
Right. Well, then you as a fan, that we're like, okay, well, the scheme worked once. Now you're pointing your fingers at Trubisky and almost make it feel like it's Trubisky's fault that it's not working. Yeah. And then you and I both looked at each other like, if it's not working for Trubisky and it's not working for Foles, then it's just not working. It's not a scheme that is successful. And now we start pointing our fingers at Nagy, even though Nagy disguised it as Trubisky's fault.
Yeah.
And you're like, you look at Trubisky's numbers and you go, oh yeah, it's Trubisky. But then as a whole, you look back and you go, yeah, we weren't throwing the ball well. We weren't running the ball well. We weren't doing anything well.
No. So now you sit back and you're like, wow, you really tried to blame it on a guy who's giving your franchise everything. Instead of swallow, everybody gave him a clap. Thank you for changing your scheme. That shows that you really care about the team winning. If you really would have cared about the team winning, even when we were 5-1, you would have been, because our offense looked like crap even when we were 5-1. We were
dude, we were just getting past these teams that are now not very good.
So he should have, in all reality, if you really cared about your team winning, Nagy, you should have, at the start of the season, been like, I'm going to change my scheme and give Laser the play calling, because we still look like crap. Our offense still looks like crap. But everybody gave him a pat, even including me, because he made it seem like it was Mitch's fault this whole time. And then when he finally gives the play calling over, it's like, okay, good job. That shows that the team, you care about the team. When in all reality, you sit in a situation now, and it shows that you benching Mitch and bringing in Foles for those however many games Foles started was you literally just like, I don't want my scheme to die, so I'm going to try everything till it blows up in my face.
Right.
And he let the Bears lose 6 games in a row and made Bears fans go through week after week of complete trash football and making me irritated more than ever because you didn't want your scheme to die. Like,
Yeah.
screw you, man. Screw you.
Yeah, and it's funny because Mags and Pat, they kind of love it when the Bears come on because they always know I get really into it. Like they always say, like I treat every game like the Super Bowl, but I'm like, it's just I have so much passion for my team, and
Yeah.
like you only get to see the Bears play 16 times a year, so you have to make every game count. But
Yeah.
I felt like Nagy was just like all these. Felt like it was more like preseason, like he was just trying stuff out, seeing, hoping it would work, and it's not. It's now we look back and I felt like Nagy didn't care what Trubisky had to say about the offense or what Nick Foles had to say. I felt like, it was like, you're doing what I say. I'm the coach.
Yeah. His
You're the
system went
player.
that way.
I point and you shoot, basically.
Yeah.
But now like Laser understands. He goes, I'm a coach. I'm sitting up in the comfy skybox. Trubisky's on the field with my guys. He understands those guys' strengths. He knows anyone better than I ever will be because he has that brotherhood with them. And he sits down and he goes, what plays do you want me to call? What plays do you feel comfortable with? Comfort is everything. You and I are both baseball players. If you go up to the plate and you're not comfy, you're gonna fail every time. But if you go up and you're comfy, you got your timing down, you're gonna rake, dude. Like you may get out here and there because that's the game of baseball. Like that's football too. But if you're comfy, you're gonna have success.
Yeah, if you feel comfortable, it just makes like I feel I'm really really happy, like 90% happy more than anything. But I'm also like I feel really bad and I'm mad. I feel really bad for Mitch and I'm really mad at Nagy because he put his scheme
Priorities over the team.
Yeah, he put his scheme, his priority, his wants over a guy like Mitch and over the fans of Chicago in all reality. Right. Like I care more about my scheme working than winning football games for the city of Chicago, which makes me so mad.
And that's the feeling you get now, It's just like he wanted to succeed so badly. He wants to be the next Andy Reid. That's what he wants. But you have to understand that at some point you sit back and go, you know what? It's not working, and it probably is my fault. I am the coach. It's my responsibility, not my quarterbacks. And I got this book for Christmas. I'm not supposed to read it, but I read the intro, and it said the quarterback is the most pressure-filled position because if the team's doing well, then they get all the credit. But if the team's doing terrible, then it's their fault. And they showed a prime example of Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco lost the game to Pittsburgh before he left Baltimore. And it said that he took the credit for the loss, even though his receivers couldn't catch any balls. The whole O-line was hurt. Their defense wasn't great. Couldn't get a stop against the Steelers. But they point the finger at Flacco and go, well, at what point is Flacco going to sit there and take the criticism and know that it's his fault that we're losing football games? And that's what's happening with the Bears. Because you and I were both sat there thinking, I don't think it's actually Trubisky's fault. Because heading into the year, I said we didn't run the ball at all. I was like, I think we finished like 23rd in rushing yards, which is just awful.
I started to feel as if it was when I really started to get a gut feeling that this was more Nagy than anything was Foles' first complete start against, I'm pretty sure it was the Colts.
Yeah.
When Foles came in, he caught fire against the Falcons. So it was like,
it's the Falcons' defense in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, maybe it was Trubisky. Because, I mean, as a Bears fan, you're like, holy cow, we just saw three or four touchdown passes in a row.
I think he threw three, but one of them was incomplete.
Yeah. So, okay, so you see, put Bears fans obviously listening to this, after those first games where we were 4-1 with Mitch as the starter. 4-1, right?
Mitch was
3-0.
Mitch was 3-0 because he started the Atlanta game but got pulled in the second half.
Okay, yeah. So even when we were 3-0, the offense didn't look good, and we knew that. So you go from seeing that, and you're like, oh wow, our offense doesn't look good, and you're like, is this Mitch or Nagy? And then Foles comes in the fourth quarter and drops 4 dimes and scores 4 touchdowns, and you're like, it was Mitch because Foles just dropped 3 or 4 touchdowns. It was Mitch.
Right.
And then you go into the next game against the Colts, and you're like, oh, crap. We look the same.
I gave Foles the benefit of the doubt against the Colts because the Colts defense was so hot at that time. Like, it was like, I was like, yeah, no one's really moving the ball against the Colts as it is. I understand it's only his first full start, so I'll let him get the pass on this game.
Okay, so like, I started to get an inkling that game, but let's say we know for sure next game, it still didn't look different. And then you're like, oh, God, it wasn't Mitch. It wasn't Foles. It's Nagy's scheme. And he keeps riding with it and keeps riding with it. And then you're really like, wow, it wasn't Mitch. And then Laser comes in, you're like, wow, it wasn't Mitch.
Well, I sat there, and it was the Monday night game against the Rams when they scored 10 points. It was the worst performance I've seen from our offense. And I somehow sat there and watched the entire game from beginning to end. I don't know how I did it without wanting to poke my eyes out. But you sat there, and it was like, they're just manhandling us. Like, they know exactly what we're going to run before we run it.
Yeah.
And I sat there dreading. I go, it doesn't matter who we have in there. They're going to be bad because Nagy doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Then Trubisky comes in with Bill Lazor's offense, and the first half was a little rough because I think we were coming off a bye, and it was Lazor's first week, so I didn't expect us to go out and score 25 points. But then we scored 30 against Detroit, and I said, "Hey, the defense looked bad, but the offense looked good. We can build off of this." Then we go out and we scored 36 and manhandled Houston, and I went, "Oh, sweet, we're back on track." And then you and I sat here and we talked on our second podcast, and we said that the Houston game was great, but we're not really going to truly know who the Chicago Bears are until we play this Vikings game. And I know you and I both agreed that it felt like a playoff game from beginning to end. Like, whoever was going to win this game was going to be in much better position than the team that loses. And you've already said it, that the Vikings have to have like a miracle, like 1 in a million chance of making the playoffs now.
Yeah.
But it's so effective now that we're play action. All right, nothing's open. Dump it down. Oh, Darnell Mooney has the ball. Look at him break 3 tackles and no one catch up to him and gain 30 yards. Oh, Allen Robinson one-on-1? I'll take that every time,
Yeah.
He's sure-handed.
Pound the ball to David Montgomery. Here's 20 carries and 100-something yards, 140 yards and change today.
And Laser understands that everything comes from the O-line, and I've never seen the O-line perform like they have. They look
have had the same – they hit it hard and alluded to it multiple times. We've had the same starting line for the past 4 games.
Yeah.
And we've gave guys chances. Everybody's in the right spot. But the one thing I get pretty mad about when people say is like now everybody's like, oh, you're just hopping back on the Mitch train. And I'm like, don't even. I know you too. You're like me too, where it's like, they're like, well, you were super excited when Foles came in. And I'm like, tell me you wouldn't be when you went from an offense that wasn't scoring anything, and then this dude comes in against the Falcons and drops those touchdowns in a game when the offense hasn't done anything. You tell me you wouldn't be excited because maybe you're like, oh, wow, maybe it was Mitch this whole time. How can you not have that? How can you not have that mindset after a dude does that? If Foles would have came in and looked like dog crap, then you'd have been like, okay. Then I would have said it's Nagy's scheme. But he came in and it's like, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe Foles is the quarterback that fits Nagy's scheme, and you were hoping for that.
Right.
But then it's like, oh crap! His scheme just doesn't work, and we don't have the players to do his scheme.
I think what really happened is, I bet you we can look back and look at the sack numbers just drastically fall, is the fact that Nagy wanted to call up these medium to deep plays almost every time and not set, like, I think with Laser, he's always like 2 or 3 steps ahead of his opponent. Like, I'm going to run the ball here, but set it up for a run and try to get the A-Rob on the next play, But then Nagy was like, oh, we're just going to throw a deep ball and hope that it works.
We're going to come right out of the gate and just try to go for 20-yard gains on first, second, and third down, and then we're going to punt it and be like, well, we still have a good defense. Well, after you send them out 4 freaking times in a row to get a stop, you're gassed, dude.
Yeah.
You can't rely on your defense for that long. And I think Laser, being the player coach he is, as you realize, understands that too. The longer drive I put together and the more I fit to Mitch's, which the longer drive I put together means I'm playing to Mitch's strengths and David's strengths and Allen's strengths and all my other strengths. Well, that gives my defense rest, and I
Right.
want to give them rest. To where Nagy is just like, well, my defense can go out and get a stop. Well, my defense can go out and get a stop. Well, my defense can go out and get a stop. When they can't breathe and are crawling onto the field, Nagy, they're not going to get a freaking stop, man.
You'd be
Like,
tired too if you had to chase Dalvin Cook down for 4 quarters.
yeah, over and over. And if I'm out there like, well, if we don't get the stop, we lose the game. Over
I
and
know.
over and
How
over
many
and over.
how many times did it was the Vikings game. They scored that one touchdown, I shut it off. I was like, yeah, we're not scoring, his game's over.
Yeah.
They scored that late touchdown after Foles got hurt, and I was like, yeah, it's done. It's over. We're in trouble. Because
Well, it's just like the defense was at the point where it's like, well, Nagy's not changing the scheme, and he wants us to come out here and get a stop when it's like, if we don't hold them to a field goal or less, we lose. Within the first or second drive of the game, they're thinking that. As to where now they're like, hey, even if we give up a field goal, I have confidence that Laser is going to put together a 10-minute drive that at least either ties it up or gives us the lead. And I just had a freaking long rest, and I can go back out there and get a stop now.
I said to this, I did a football broadcast in high school. It was during one of high school games. I said the most important stat for any team, because if you look back and look at that Eagles team that won the Super Bowl, every game that they played, time of possession. You knew exactly where I was heading. You knew exactly where I was heading with that. Yes. Time of possession is the most important stat, in my opinion, because like I said, Aaron Rodgers is pretty useless if he doesn't have the ball in his hands.
Yeah. And our defense is useless if they're going out every minute.
Right.
On a third and a 3 and out because of Nagy's stupid scheme.
Yeah, we'd go out there.
It shows you how much he literally cares about himself over 3. We've already mentioned 2. Well, let's add another one. The defense. He cares more about his scheme over Mitch, over the fans of Chicago, and over freaking the defense.
Right.
He doesn't care about Mitch because he benched him and he wants Foles to start because he thinks it's Mitch's fault, not my scheme's fault. He doesn't care about the fans of Chicago because it took him all of last year and majority of this year to change his scheme. Oh, and you don't care about your defense because I don't care how many 3 and outs I get. I'm going to make you come out and get a freaking stop even if I go 3 and out freaking 8 times in a row. It's like, dude, you are a selfish freaking son of a gun, man. Like, screw off. Get out of here.
I'm glad you censored yourself. I can see you want to say the other word. I saw it turning your mind. You said son of a gun. I'm happy you said that. But I agree. It's just it was so irritating there for a minute because you and I understood, like, the Bears have the talent. The Bears easily have the talent.
Yeah.
But every year it goes, well, here comes Trubisky. And you can point a finger at Nagy, but you also point a finger at the media. Like every year they come in and you hear like Colin Cowherd or Stephen A. Smith, and then his new guy or Skip Bayless go, the Bears can only go as far as Trubisky, how good he does. No, the media puts so much pressure on the quarterback, but they don't ever say he doesn't have the weapons. And it was for a while there, no one pointing the finger at Nagy and said it's Nagy's fault. Every time you turn on the news and it was talking about the Bears, they go, it's Mitch Trubisky going 11 for 29, only having 100-something yards. He's not good. And it's like people are saying he was a bust after like 2 years. It's like it's been 2 years. Like, relax for a minute. Like, let him develop the way. No one has patience in the sports game anymore.
No.
Like I remember people were saying that the Mavericks won the trade between him and Luka. Like when they got Luka for Trae Young. I'm like, their careers aren't even halfway over yet, and you're already saying they won. Like, Trae Young could turn out to be a better player, but that's a different story. Yeah. That's for a different. But Trubisky football is a game of time and patience, and just. I know for Chicago fans it's tough because Green Bay went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, and we went from Jay Cutler to Mitch Trubisky
to Mike Glennon.
Mike Glennon. I forget about Mike Glennon, but you go from Mike Glennon to Trubisky, and now Trubisky, probably the best quarterback performances I've ever seen since that 1 year with Cutler when we went to the conference.
Easily, and it's because he's in the right situation. And we talked a lot about how it shouldn't have taken this long for Nagy to change his scheme. Dude, he should, in all reality, that scheme should have been changed last year. Like,
it should have changed when we had like the 30th worst offense in the league.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, like this year, it blew up. It really reared its ugly head. But we saw it last year as well. So what took it so long? What took it a whole year and half a year for you to change it, dude? That shows a lot too. It's not like it was like it's totally different if we're talking he changed the scheme halfway through last year. Dude, that's pretty selfish. You that took you a year and a freaking half to change your scheme before anything, man. Like,
Well,
really?
we headed into the off season, and uh, Pace was being told, he goes, because I'm assuming that Pace talks to Nagy, and Nagy tells him what he wants for his team. He goes, well, we need tight ends, and we need a quarterback. And he goes, all right, well, I'll go get you Nick Foles, and then I'll go get you Cole Kmet. And then you kind of just like you sit back and you go, huh, we didn't really need that.
No, we could have I love Komet. I love Darnell Mooney and I love them. But like in all reality, the 2019 team could have went to the playoffs just as easy as anything if the scheme would have been changed just like this year.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we didn't need I'm glad we have Komet and guys like that 100% because it does make the scheme that Laser's going with even more fun to watch. But we could have done it last year with Burton and Gabriel and guys like that we had. Laser could have ran the same freaking offense that he's running right now at those guys, and we could have been back-to-back division champs if Nagy would have changed his scheme last year. But the dude's selfish. He's a selfish son of a gun, man. I swear, selfish.
Well, I'm glad that he finally sat down and he goes, you know what? Maybe I should give it to Laser and let Laser actually run the offense that he wants to run because the offense.
Nagy does not deserve any credit. If the Bears make the playoffs, he doesn't deserve. People say, well, he kept the locker room together through tough times. I don't care, man. You put him in that position for us to be in tough times. The Bears should have been back-to-back champs going for back-to-back division champs going for a third title if he would have changed his scheme. He don't deserve no credit for keeping BS, man, keeping the locker room together. You put him in the situation where you needed to keep the locker room together because you were selfish enough to keep your scheme in place.
Do you know what keeps the locker room together is when the offense holds up their weight and the defense doesn't have to worry about making like 20,000 stops in a game and winning.
Yeah.
And I think that was the most irritating. Yeah, I felt like Nagy was getting way too much credit for that, for like, keeping the locker room together.
Congrats, man.
Congrats. Like that, you know what that means? It just means that you're keeping their heads up after they get their butts smacked every week. That's basically what that means. Yeah, because of you. Because you
different if
you had so much pride and ego in yourself to go, you know what? My system was working in Kansas City and we went to the playoffs and we should have went to a Super Bowl and now it's gonna work in Chicago.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Because Alex Smith is way different than Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah.
And that's what some guys need to understand, that not every quarterback is built the same. And if you play to their strength, it's going to work. Like, for example, I don't want to say it's an NBA example, but look at Steph Curry and the Warriors. They play to their – Steve Curry walks in and he goes, you know what? The league is going for, like points in the paint. You guys shoot the ball really well. Let's shoot a lot. Now we won 3 championships in 4 years.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
But if the Bears would have played the Trubisky strengths right away, no doubt in my mind, they'd be atop of the division battling with the Green Bay Packers instead of trying to get into that extra wild card spot with the Arizona Cardinals. Because the Bears have a much better team than the Cardinals do. The Cardinals have some good players, but they're not like a great team. I feel the Bears could have been a great team, you know? And I feel like we have a more complete team than Green Bay. It's just that Green Bay has a guy named Aaron Rodgers, and we have Mitch Trubisky, which it's not any bash towards Mitch Trubisky. It's just the fact that Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah.
And he's been tearing us apart for years now.
It just sucks because we could have had this scheme in place for a year.
Exactly.
We could have been coming into 2020 we know, let's say Laser gets the scheme in place and Nagy's riding with Laser scheme. We go through last year and it works and it works and it works, and then you come into 2020 and Mitch totally understands this scheme and he looks confident in 4 games. Could you imagine if this scheme would have been in place for 16 games last year and now? The dude would be even more confident than he is now. He's confident.
Honestly, he could have been up for, if most improved player was an award in the NFL, he could have been up for it.
Yeah,
he really could have been up for it. But I'm not going to complain how he's playing now.
No.
because is a high completion percentage that I look for in a quarterback. Who cares if you throw for 300, 400 yards? If your running back's going to run for 146, just get the first down to keep going down the field. That's exactly what happened today. We kept Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook on the sideline and said, you know what? Stay over there. We're going to stay on the field, and we're going to keep driving on your defense. And then it'd be like touchdown or field goal. And now they have to come out and try to do that against our defense after Khalil Mack, Robert Quinn, Trevathan, and Roquan got to go, all right, well, this is what they're trying to do, and this is how we're going to figure it out. And, like I said, Jalen Johnson didn't play today, and it was clear.
Play, bro.
The guy wasn't bad, but he became a non-factor because he wasn't on the field for 40 of the 60.
Yes, dude. Because we would have gotten that.
Justin Jefferson tore him apart for all those minutes.
If it
or Adam Thielen.
If it would have been, let's say Foles was in there and Nagy was still calling plays, we would have lost that game by 20 plus points today.
Exactly.
Guaranteed.
Exactly.
Guaranteed. And Dalvin Cook wouldn't even have rushed for that many yards. They would have just picked us apart in the air.
Yeah. They would have just been like, all right, we're going to run it, or we're going to run play action and force you guys to decide if we're going to actually run it or throw it.
Yeah.
And by the way,
rookie wasn't freaking plastered up on the big screen all day was because Kirk Cousins didn't have a crap ton of chances to be able to throw at him because our offense was on, like we talked about, time of freaking possession.
Right. So if we go out and play like we did against Minnesota, against Jacksonville, and against Houston, no doubt in my mind we'll go into halftime with a huge lead like we did against Houston and be sitting there pretty because even Mag said he goes the game last week went really well, right? I said the Bears will put up easily like 40 or 50 on Houston, but I said at that point they weren't trying to throw everything they have, like the whole kitchen sink, because they want to save some plays for these next 3 games because they knew that's more important, and they had all the confidence that the defense was going to stop Deshaun Watson and the offense. So I said we went out there, we kicked 2 field goals, and that was it, and I was fine with that because the second quarter was worth anything. If we go out and we keep the slow, methodical pace, not rushing ourselves, getting what's open, taking what the defense has given us.
If we I just call it the laser scheme. If we just do the laser scheme,
we'll annihilate Jacksonville. We'll get through them easy. Then we'll cross our fingers for the Arizona game. Then go to Green Bay and you know what? We're still going to run the same system, and we're going to force Aaron Rodgers to try and score the same amount of points as us with the least time of possession.
Yep. And then you give yourself a shot. The players give themselves a shot. So
exactly.
Which is all you can ask for as a player. Is like, if I'm the players, man, I feel good. Like this is what we should have. Like I'm saying, screw Nagy, man.
Yeah.
The players are talking behind his back. If I'm a player right now, I'm like, screw that guy.
They're probably talking about him before because they were just like they're probably saying the same thing we were. Like, hey, Rob, he's probably sitting there thinking, man, everyone's putting all the pressure on Trubisky, and they go, it's not even his fault. It's Nagy. He goes, Nagy's system's not working. And when Nick Foles said that after the game against Minnesota, I believe, or it was right before the Minnesota game, it was in that time frame. He said, like I said earlier in this podcast, he said he calls plays that I don't understand why he's calling them. He goes, I don't have the time. And I remember even texting you the day he got hurt. I'm like, Nagy's going to get Foles killed. Like, he's literally going to get him killed because of how many times he gets hit. And, Trubisky's not getting hit at all. He's Mitch Trubisky again. He's Mitch Trubisky, the quarterback we got from North Carolina, not the quarterback that Nagy wants him to be.
Yep.
Plain and simple.
To close it, my final statement is honestly, this is like one of my favorite podcasts that we've had so far. I've had a blast talking throughout this podcast.
We had no plan going into this. We just wanted to talk about the Bears, and we have so much passion for this team. Like if you're from Chicago, you understand that the most popular team there is your Bears, and the Bulls are right behind them. And you love to watch. Victory Monday is my favorite day of the week when the Bears win. I love Victory Mondays. I wake up so happy, Like, I get happy when the Cubs win, but the Cubs play 162 games. While the Bears, it's 16. So a lot different time frame there, But I totally agree. Like, we really got into it today. And I like this concept of having a clean slate and just heading into it and just see what we're talking about.
Like, from my end, like, to close my end out, from Bears fans, my point of view is for you to get nailed in your head that Mitch is not a bad guy. Don't blame anything on Mitch. blame it on the guy that put his needs, Matt Nagy put his needs above his coaching staff, his players, his defense, and most importantly, Chicago, he put it above your freaking fandom. So that's what I want to close it with, is that's my main point of this podcast, is that guy put his needs above all those subjects of the Chicago Bears. So
my final thought before we close this out, and I'll let you close this one out since you started it and you really got into it today, and you earned it for staying clean. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
The thing I want to say is let's enjoy these last 2 wins. Let's enjoy this Minnesota win. It's a huge win. Let's head into Jacksonville. Let's go beat them, and let's go get them Packers.
Yes, sir.
Let's go get Rodgers. Let's send them into the playoffs with a bad taste in their mouth.
Yes.
And one more thing, as Cordell Patterson always says after Bears wins, how about them Bears?
How about them Bears? Well, thank you all for joining the Sauce and Hench podcast. This was a doozy of one. Listen to it, enjoy it, and join us for another one in the next couple of days as we cover the Bulls going into the Chicago Bulls season. And just like Miles said to close it out, how about them Bears, baby?
How about them Bears? All right, thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next time on Sauce and Hench.